Hello, everyone, and welcome to the session where we'll be reviewing the GeoStage service. So this service is built for us to extract data sets from services like the Google Earth Engine, the NASA dataset, and so on. So you can query regions, so you can pan around a map, query the region for any geographic data, and you can create data sets as we'll show in this video. Also, in the GeoStage service, you can create and deploy machine models. So once you've created a data set here, you can go ahead and do learning on that data set, and you can create a model and deploy that model for others to access and query. So for this video, we'll just be looking at the creation of a data set. And we'll begin with looking on the right-hand side, looking at the map and selection of points, and then we'll look at creating composites and extracting data after that. So looking at the right, of course, here you've got the map. Let's just increase there. So you've got the map, and as you drag this around, you can see the center of the map has this red marker, and you'll see the coordinates change as we drag the map there. So the coordinates are updating there. And then to add a point to your data set, you just click the plus there. And now you can see there's a little green marker together with the coordinates at this point. And so you can add as many points as you like here. So that's your basic points editor. So what we can also do instead is load up some points from memories, so or from the hard drive. So for example, if we have a CSV and we want to load that, then we can just click browse here, and let's just click this one. So this is a data set with about 5,000 points in it, and nothing has happened as yet. So we want to click load coordinates here. And we can see now there are many more points listed here. So we can see the full 5,000 points. So you can page through the points if you like, or more graphically, we can go to the map. And if we scroll out, we can see all these points have to do with South Africa. So we have all these points in our data set. And one thing I didn't point out was when we loaded the file, there's the option to choose a color field here. So what happens is when we choose the file, the system will read the file and look for columns or fields in the file, and it will exclude the latitude and longitude. And if you do look at this data set, it's a CSV with latitude, longitude, and active. So there's a field called active, and so it's used active because active has values of 0 and 1, and so it's colored them differently. I think the greens are 1s and the 0s are blue. So we can look at a point and we can see in this data set what's classified as true and what's classified as false. So this is a data set that has to do with the success of a borehole drilling site. So that's how we can create points and how we can load data into memory. And what we want to do is query the points at these locations. So to do that, we want to use the Google Earth Engine. In this case, it's set up by default to work off Google Earth Engine. And we can create a composite. So a composite is a collection of attributes at a geolocation. So for example, if you were to choose, let's say, this point, then you might be interested in, at this location, what's the rainfall, what's the soil type. So there are many, many attributes that are accessible on a service like Earth Engine. And so you can specify what attributes you are interested in here. And I'm just going to load, I think there's a sample, load sample data sets here. And so if you click on that, you'll get a sample of about 14 attributes. So you can do a search on Earth Engine, and all you need to do is specify the name of the field of interest. and we also specify where that is stored. So on a service like Earth Engine, the attribute of interest will be stored in some collection. So you specify your collection ID there. And so this needs to be exact. So as it's listed on the source where you are getting your image, you have to use exactly that. This attribute, time sensitive, just specifies to GeoStage whether this attribute that we've chosen, population count, whether that changes over time. So we can imagine that the population does change over time. But if we think of something like the elevation, so the elevation of a location, we don't expect that to be changing over time. So in that case, the image type is static. So number one, you want to specify the correct field. So just as the collection ID must be correctly specified, also the field ID must be specified. And then we want to specify whether this image is changing over time. And then this is a repetition. This last field can be a bit more descriptive, and we can use that just when reading through our lists of things here. So that's how we specify an image. And what we want to do is add those images into a composite. So we need to create a composite or a collection of attributes. And you can create a composite quite easily here. If you just type in a composite name, let's say test01, and you click on the plus icon here, then it's created that composite for us. And if you click on the search icon, then that will bring up any other composites that you may have saved already. So if I click on HydroBlue, then you can see here, I've just got 3 images in this HydroBlue composite. So we've chosen a composite. And so that's a collection of images, but that's just loaded it into memory, right? So just be familiar with these terms. A composite is just a collection of images, and an image is in essence an attribute at a geolocation. So in this case, we want to know the values of these 3 things, right? This has to do with the vegetation index. There's precipitation, like the rainfall. And I actually can't remember what this one is. But this composite has those 3 attributes. Now, to get values for these, what we want to do, number one, is to specify a time range. So you see, with all these being time varying or time sensitive images, we need to specify a time range so that we can extract the mean and standard deviation over that time range. So we can specify it here by choosing from the selector. So you could choose the year and the month and so on, or a bit more easily, you can just edit it directly here. And let's just take a short time range. It returns results a bit more quickly. So let's say 2020 to 2023. And that's basically it. So once you have that, then you can go ahead and activate that as a composite. So if you say here, activate composite, then it will use that date range to create on the server a collection that can be queried. So and there's a little bit of back and forth between these 2 little forms here. So that's the procedure, right? You create a composite here, which may be empty to begin with. Then you add images into that composite, and then that will automatically save. And then when you want to start querying that composite, you come here, you specify a date range, and you go up here to click on Activate Composite. I need to move that button down here, but you specify your date range and click Activate Composite. Then that composite is alive in memory. And then if we click on Search here, that's going to show any composites that are stored on the server. So that's a composite that's active in the server memory that we can query. And so what we can do is drag the map, and then we can query that composite. So let's see, yeah, we just click evaluate selected regions. So across all the points that you've selected here, if you go ahead and you click on number one, you must select the composite, and then number two, with your points specified, and again, be sure that your date range is reasonable. So let's just put this back here. So that's our date range. And then we can say activate that composite. So that's alive in memory. And then we go ahead and click on evaluate selected regions. So if you go ahead and do that, then you can go into the machine model side, and that's where your composite will load. So I'm just going to load up a previous data set. And here it's a little bit garbled because of the length of the values. But if I expand out here, well, just one moves down. But you see here, we've got from that HydroBlue set, we've loaded these attributes into memory. So this data set is alive now. So we have all these geo attributes available here. We also have an extra label field. So you can see that this is now ready for machine learning because we've got a set of features and we've got a label. So that's ready for supervised machine learning. So in the subsequent video, we'll look at how to build a model and how to train it and deploy it and query it and all of that. But for right now, we are just looking at creating the data set. So you can query and create your data set here. Once you've loaded the data, you can also save that data set. So number one, you can simply export the data set using one of these buttons and save it locally. You can also save your data set. In fact, this is a case where we've saved it to the server. So to save your machine learning set to the server, you specify a name here. There will be a name auto-created. And then here you select the label field. So it's reading the data set and listing for you all the attributes available. So active is the label field. And then here in the feature fields, we only want to select those kind of reasonable, the ones we want to include as inputs. So we don't want the coordinates anymore, right? The coordinates are in a sense, independent variables. We don't expect those. We are not trying to build a model between coordinates and this active label. So we don't want coordinates. Active itself is the label field, so we don't want that either. And then we don't want to build a model that predicts from the ID anything. So we don't want those fields. And then at the end, we can also see IDX, so we don't want any index there. So we only want the geo attributes to be the input fields. So we've specified the label field, the feature fields, and we've given a name here. So when we click on save, it's going to copy this entire data set plus the fact that this is the label field and these are the feature fields. It's going to save all that on the server. By the way, I have strayed into the machine learning side of this, but anyway, so it will save that on the server. And then if you go and click load stored, you can see on the server, I have previously stored some machine learning sets. So if I click on one of those, and if I click on build model, then it's going to load that model into memory, or rather it's going to build the model using these attributes. And then once the model is built, all I need to do is select it here and click on activate selected model. And then once that model is activated, if I just click on predict, or if I go back to GeoStage here, and if I choose my data set, if I change what regions I want to query here, then when I go back in here and I click on predict, it will use the model to predict whether that site is active or not. Right, so that's in a nutshell GeoStage. You can create your data set here, you can create your model here and deploy it. And then there'll be another video on how to deploy that model for others to query it. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks for listening.